Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. Happy Friday everybody, I hope you're doing well. Give everybody a couple of minutes to kind of shuffle in, let them know that we're going live. If you can see me, give me a thumbs up and like the stream. It'll help other people on YouTube know that we're here. I hope you guys are doing well. We are back at it doing live readings on the channel this evening. We're going to be doing live astrology readings. If you guys are new to my channel, my name is Candice. I'm a Western astrologer with a focus on working with the Sabian symbols as well as tarot to better understand what's going on in the cosmos. Maybe you've seen some of my videos and you have a question about your natal chart or about a specific transit. I'm always here every Friday and we alternate between tarot and astrology. To be able to get a reading and get in the queue, you're going to want to scan this QR code right over here. It's going to take you to my PayPal link where you can make a donation. Readings are $55 US, and make sure in the memo box, please put your information. I need to know your time, date, location of birth, including the city, state. Please spell out the month and put the AM or the PM and let me know in the memo what your question is. If your name differs on PayPal versus YouTube, also just give me a heads up. Sometimes we have a lot of people who are in the queue for these readings, so I appreciate your patience. We're going to take the readings in the order that they come. We'll leave the queue open for about 20-30 minutes and see if you guys want to kind of get in here and ask some questions. Sometimes people ask about a natal aspect and they want to understand an aspect in their chart, or you have a question about timing. We also do Synastry readings as well. Just want to say hello to everybody who's here. What's up, Echoist? Hey, Paula. Hey, Claudia. Hey, Lava Monkey. Intuitive Enlightenment. Erica. J-Lo. Angel and Ray. What's up, guys? Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Ray. Okay, so just a couple things. We've got a couple people who are already in the queue. You'll hear me do a roll call intermittently throughout the live reading just to let you guys know who's next. I'll rattle off a couple of names so you know if you're next on the list. And you can ask really pretty much whatever you want. So just try to hone in on one particular topic or question for me. And next week, hopefully, I'm sure we'll be here. I think so with the schedule. We're going to have tarot. Just to give you guys a heads up of who we have. And before I even really get into this, are there any level 3 members here who would like to cash in on their monthly? Maybe you know, maybe you don't know, but I'm a full-time content creator on YouTube. I put out 4 videos, including this live a week, including several hour-long horoscopes. I do sometimes free presentations and webinars. And in 2024, I hope to bring you guys more continuing education content. I try to put out as much high quality, long content as possible on YouTube. We've been working at this hard for the last 2 years. It's been amazing to see the channel grow, and it's made possible because you either subscribe, you give me a thumbs up, maybe you comment, but just watching my videos is amazing. But also I have my memberships. So if you're not aware, you can support my channel by donating just a couple bucks a month. All the way up to level 3, where you're going to get one reading with me once a month during my lives, and you get a shout out, and you also get to support me being a content creator. So I always appreciate those of you guys who either donate or join my memberships. It's a pretty great deal, especially if you'd like to get a reading with me once a month. And if you've been thinking about getting a personal one-on-one reading with me as well, this is a great way as like an introduction to kind of see what it would be like chatting with me. But you can book a personal reading with me in my links below in the description at beyondtheveiltarot.com. All right, cool. So here's who we've got. We've got Sofia and we've got Angela. Are there any level 3 people here? Anybody? We always take you guys first. A couple people are asking how you get in the queue. Scan this QR code. It'll take you to my PayPal and then you can make your donation. So if you want to get in on that, Angela, you can. Otherwise, we will get started with Sofia and then we will have Angela on deck. So let's take a look at Sofia's info. What's up, Sofia? Thank you, Diana. I appreciate it. I actually I'm kind of glad to be back and working. It was a nice couple of day break, but it's been a rough week for me. What's up, Prince? There she is. Sofia Karma. So Sofia says, Great day. Currently feeling some big shifts and changes. I'm in a master's program and I just took finals. I'm having a hard time finding a clinical site. However, I just started a job last month that feels like it's going to take me into some really big arenas. There's some home life challenges with children at times. I'm currently just dating, but doesn't seem to be any major potential. What type of plans can I create to align with the energies coming transits have in store for me? So she's 4/13/81 at 12:10 a.m. in Chicago. So she is a Capricorn rising, moon in Leo, sun in Aries. So one thing I'll say is, like, I really like that you're embracing the direction of where the cosmos are going. I'm going to assume that part of the reason why life seems like there's a lot of changes happening all at one time is because you're experiencing eclipses that are really impacting your natal planets that you have in Aries and Libra. We'll talk about that. And we are in the midst of a Mercury retrograde in Capricorn. So the retrograde is actually in your first house. And a lot of that is activating the cardinal points in your chart. In fact, Capricorn is, let me show you. Capricorn is kind of T-squaring 10th house Libra stuff, so career changes. It's also squaring third house, going into your fourth house, communication with family, and things revolving around your home life. So it feels like this whole Mercury retrograde, pretty much from early December until the new year, is a lot of kind of learning to roll with the punches, learning to better kind of assess and determine and schedule. Capricorn's about timing, and how to better kind of communicate and really kind of tap into what's best for you, because this is taking place in the first house. Now, specifically, Mercury rules your Placidus 9th house of higher education and learning. It also is connected to your Placidus 6th house, which deals with scheduling, health, and also your acts of service. So if I put the transits on the outside wheel, we see Mercury that's been going retrograde over your ascendant, squaring some placements that you have in Libra in your 9th house. So it can also represent like where some of these changes are taking place at work, okay? Because Libra's whole sign 10th house. And it's squaring some of these placements in Aries, which represents how you communicate with your family. So at times this can feel almost like, you know, T-squares feel like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. The focal point of the T-square, which is Capricorn, is essentially saying it's requiring you to really do your due diligence to focus on timing, your goals, your long-term plans, what works best for you. And a Mercury retrograde in the first house is probably having you feeling a little bit tongue-tied. So one thing I would say is, while we're going through this process of the Mercury retrograde, it's going to take time for, you know, obviously Mercury to go direct on the 1st. And then as we're getting into mid-January, we're going to start working our way out of this retrograde cycle, out of the post-shadow. And we want to kind of work with the trines. So as Mercury is retrograding back into your 12th house, and it's trining all of this stuff in your 3rd going into your 4th house, to me it seems like making sure that you're practicing some sense of faith practice, right? Mercury in the 12th house can mean you're meditating, you're praying. It can mean you're taking time in privacy to study and work on stuff revolving around your education. I like the fact that Mercury is going to be forming some trines to the North Node in the 3rd house, which is basically putting you in a position of having to speak up more for yourself, right? And kind of go after what it is that you want and maybe be more assertive with your communication style. I also look at how these squares are impacting Saturn and Jupiter. And it makes me feel like how education is actually creating some situations where, whether it's because of scheduling or timing, it may also like impact your work schedule. And that's also coming up anyway because you're having eclipses in Libra. So as the South Node is swinging through Libra, really throughout this next year, there is a lot of reassessing and reevaluating the relationship, right, Libra, that you have with your professional life and with your professional status. Now, all Capricorn risings with eclipses in Libra through the 10th house will experience some sense of rebalancing and changing things or reworking relationships with people out in the world. Some people will see like bosses that will retire or quit. Some people will decide to change positions or professions. So they'll quit jobs, they'll relocate, all that stuff. Why? Because the North Node in Aries is kicking in. So for like for a Capricorn rising chart, it's a lot of like, how can you be closer to home, right? Ironically, I know that you're like trying to go to school and trying to do stuff, but that North Node in your third, fourth house is saying that there is a need to communicate with family. There is a need to be checking in. You may feel like you're having to do more domestic things than usual, so on and so forth. Now, by Placidus standards, that North Node is really moving through your third. So it's more about family, maybe moves come up, maybe there is a need for you to speak up a little bit more when it comes to relatives. You may find that you're doing some kind of studying or working even remotely. That can come up as well. But basically what I'm getting at is that this month is a real turning point for major shifts in regards to what you believe you can actually get done. And even though it causes a little bit of friction when it comes to the polarity of Libra and Aries, Capricorn says, well, it's my responsibility or it's my goal. So there's a lot of overcoming obstacles throughout this transit as well. And I'm liking that Mercury is going to make several trines to Jupiter. And so especially when it comes to communicating with like younger people, with kids, it sounds like you were having some challenges. That may make it easier for you to kind of approach challenges with kids in a much more optimistic manner. It might mean that you're able to kind of approach your relationship with them in a way where you're not feeling like it has to be combative. It can be fun. You can focus on, trying to kind of raise kids or work with kids in a way where you're using positive reinforcement rather than kind of cracking the Capricorn rising whip. Let me see. Let me go back to your question here. So I want to make sure I touch all these bases. I know that you mentioned that you were like kind of toying with the idea of trying to see what else is going on with like dating. But, that full moon that you're going to have is going to be right on the descendant also in a couple of days. Let's look at that. So on the 26th of December, in about 4 days, we're going to have a full moon that's going to be in Cancer, and it's going to be right along your descendant. That does bring the moon back to its own ruling sign. Also, this is happening on an angle, which might be something very significant about meeting someone or connecting with someone or having a conversation or chatting about something. And this full moon creates, once again, another T-square. So it's going to square your Jupiter and your Saturn. So it's bringing up more about the relationship to maybe like teachers, mentors, people in terms of professional relationships. And then it's also going to square all of this Aries that you have in the third house, specifically your Mercury. So I'd be paying attention to like plus or minus a day on each side of the 26th. That can bring opportunities because it sextiles Jupiter to better your relationship with your kids or open the door to new romantic connections. This is also going to be featuring a trine that's going to be happening as well to your Juno. So that can also be about partnerships. But seventh house is where we meet other people. A trine between the moon and Saturn is nice also because your Saturn and the moon is other people. The challenge here is that, Saturn's in your second house. So I feel like it's more of conversations with people about negotiations with money, talking more about what you value, what you need for long-term security, that kind of stuff. So that might be a moon that's more about just being forthcoming about what you need to feel safe or what you need for financial situations. Now, when this Mercury retrograde wraps, oh my gosh, the Mercury-Mars conjunction's right on your Neptune. I really feel like this is about speaking out and like being really honest with people at the end of this month about being like, this is where I feel like I'm, doubting myself, or this is where I feel unsure, or I feel like I'm drowning. I say that because Neptune can provide that energy of feeling kind of like lost at sea. 12th house might also have you feeling a little bit more reclusive or a little bit more private. And with Mercury and Mars, I could definitely see around the 27th a sense of you feeling really anxious about being like, am I going to be able to juggle it all? Can I pull it off? Is it going to work? Everybody is going to have this energy where they're doubting something at the end of the month. And I would say, as long as you're being careful about what you're investing your time or your money into, you will be fine. Don't lose faith. Wait until Mars gets into Capricorn, not too far off into the distance here. And when Mars enters Capricorn on January 4th, it's going to be exalted and it's going to be in your sign. So you're going to start finding that through the actions that you're taking, there can definitely be a lot of growth with relationships to romantic partners and children. And we're also going to start seeing Mars form some beautiful T-squares with your natal placements, which means that your drive, your determination, your goals is really what's going to be kind of pushing things along. So on one hand, I'm really loving the energy of Capricorn in your chart, because for a Capricorn rising, it's a real powerful period for just like stepping up and getting a lot done. But for someone like an Aries, it's career related, you know, and it's squaring all of the Libra and all the areas in your chart. So you're kind of used to this. Every 2 years, Mars goes through Capricorn. But so many planets moving through Capricorn, squaring the nodes on top of your personal planets, is really highlighting the natal polarity that you have in these two signs. When we see oppositions between Aries and Libra, there's a lot of almost like dilemma or like challenges about what you need and who you are as a person or as an individual versus your relationship to other people, right? And so, you know, with the North Node swinging through Aries, and you're going to really see this. I mean, right now the North Node is in conjunction to your Venus and also your Sun. So there's a lot of being like, this is what I love. This is what I need. This is what I'm focusing on. And I would be really journaling about that, talking about that, including that into, you know, your daily kind of motivation, especially in the sign of Aries, where you're focusing more on what you can achieve. And with that may mean that there is some relationship or some career changes that happen. But the more that you're focused on what direction you're going in, you're going to start to see some of these things kind of, you know, develop as you get into the spring of next year. You got an eclipse that's going to be, you know, in conjunction to your Mars and also your Sun. And that's going to be right around your birthday time, where we'll have an eclipse and we'll have a Mercury retrograde. And the truth is that that is going to bring you closer to home in some way. And whether that's relationships with your parents, or that's, you know, responsibility for taking care of your kids or your family. It's just your signature is very, very strong, right? Saturn is your chart ruler. It's exalted in Libra and it is in conjunction to Jupiter. So seesaw is right. When you have a stellium of planets connected to your whole sign 4th house, that's about home, comfort, nurturing family. And then when you have planets in your whole sign 10th house, it's about what you go and do out in the world. And so much of your lesson, I think, in this lifetime is learning how to balance home and work responsibilities. And then in Aries and Libra is like, well, what's my responsibility versus that of a partner, or that of a co-parent, or that of a business partner even. So it doesn't necessarily have to mean that it's about a romantic partner. When you see some positive transits to your natal moon, like for example, in this next year, you're going to start seeing, you know, Jupiter that's going to sextile your moon. You're going to see Jupiter that's going to square it first. So some relationship things can definitely happen. But you're still in the midst of like Pluto in your 1st house, and there is still a lot of things that are getting worked out about the relationship, you know, to yourself. So I'm not going to say you can't have relationships, but believe it or not, the more that I think you're doing your North Node work, because the North Node is going to be trining your moon, and the more that you're assertive and very clear about what you need, the more likely you're going to bring relationships in that are going to kind of fall into alignment with that, right? And the moon's conjunct the North Node, so you're here to learn about relationships, but it's in the 8th house. So there's always this transformation of relationships, and they're very deep and passionate, very powerful. I think maybe the Venus retrograde that happened over the summer was getting you thinking about, you know, what do you want in relationships and what needs to change, and how can you go deeper into, you know, relationship harmony. With the North Node conjunct your Sun right now, and the Sun rules, you know, your natal North Node and your moon, it means that you want depth. That's really what you want in relationships. So if you can have a relationship that can kind of bring that for you, and it can bring the intensity and the passion, and somebody who you can have deep conversations with, and somebody who's kind of down to transform together, then relationships can work. But, you know, Venus is and the Sun is being transited by Chiron in this next year. So there's definitely a lot of really needing to focus on positive self-talk and affirmations, and, you know, just being really kind to yourself. And I think that's really what's going to help some of this stuff kind of like open up in the spring and the summer of next year. Okay. Hopefully that's helpful for you, giving you some feedback. There's always a seesaw. Thanks, Claudia. I'll add you to my list. I feel you on that. I'm a Libra rising. My moon's in Aries, and I have a ton of Capricorn. And like, man, the eclipses and the cardinal squares are really difficult, because it's kind of like, are you going to do this? Or are you going to do that? Are you going to fall back into the past? Or are you going to move into the future? You know, never easy, never easy. All right. So we've got Angela. Okay. So Angela's here. And that's 9/21/84 at 12:47 p.m. She says, hey, Candace, can you please give me a reading regarding what you see as major transits or aspects that could help me move through some really tough times? The last few months have been rough and have put me in a bad place mentally. In the past, facing these types of challenges at least remained hopeful, Sag rising, but I can't really get out of this depression lately and get my head above water. Thank you for all your help and your advice. All right, well, I am happy to help you. I loved that. I mean, I don't love that you're not feeling so hot, but I love that you use the term trying to get my head above water. I feel like I've heard that a million times since Saturn has entered into Pisces over this last year. And that's basically like that in a nutshell. When we think of Saturn, Saturn is on one hand this limiting force in our lives, right? With good reason. It wants to teach us something. But Saturn in Pisces is this invisible wall that's kind of holding us back from something, right? And you don't quite have Saturn in your fourth house yet. By whole sign standards, yes, it's already there. So I would really encourage you to learn about Saturn transiting your natal fourth house. One thing I will tell you is you have a ton of Sagittarius in your chart. Okay, you're a Virgo, but you have a lot of Sag. And Sag rising, Uranus in Sag, Mars in Sag, Neptune in Sag. Like there is a sense of needing freedom. I can see also that with some of your natal placements, like the Sun square Mars and Neptune, there can be this sense of being like, I want to be in control, I want to be in charge, or I want to be the boss, but wait a second, where am I going? So when we look at your natal chart, let me just pull that. You know, the mutable square between the Sun and the Mars and Neptune means you like the idea of being able to, be in control of things or manage things, but maybe you're good for doing that for other people, but then there can be a sense of like when it's for you, you're like, wait, I don't really know where I'm going, right? So what's happening right now is you've got Saturn that has made it all the way up to 7 degrees in 2023. So Saturn has been in Pisces in your third house of the mental state, communication, and also this is about short distance trips or learning. And Saturn has been in a square to your ascendant. Now your ascendant is at 6 degrees. Sag ascendants are generally pretty positive. They're really optimistic. They're always open to learning something and they want to go places. They want to do things. And so when Saturn squares your ascendant, A, you can be a little bit more pessimistic. B, you can have some health challenges, especially at a 6. And Saturn and Pisces can be like mental related in the third house. And then we're going to see in this next year, Saturn is going to go from, well, I think it's at 2 degrees now, all the way up to about 18 or 19 degrees. So Saturn is going to come closer and closer to what we call your IC. On one hand, I feel inclined to tell you like this can be a time where you're really needing to dig deep in 2024 and you're needing to reflect on the past, maybe relationships with family. Maybe it can be how you communicate with family. Maybe it's about better just expressing yourself in general. And Saturn is going to square Uranus, which means typically you may have like this persona of being like a runner where you're like, okay, when I get restless, I just go somewhere, or I just take off, or I do my own thing, or I become independent. A stellium of planets in the first house is very kind of self-focused. And what's going to happen with Saturn square Uranus is that you're learning not to run from your feelings, from your home, from your family. There may be circumstances that kind of keep you closer to home, or, taking care of relatives or taking care of like a family member or a home situation. Maybe you're making the decision to become a little bit more grounded. That's the other way you could look at it. So like settling down, buying houses, deciding you want to stay somewhere for a while, and doing some pretty significant ancestral or like emotional work will probably happen. Then you're going to start to see Saturn squaring your Mars. And so really it's going to be about what are you doing that's actually going to bring you happiness versus just short-term results. And so Saturn square Mars, you'll feel it slightly next year, and then going into 2025, you're going to see Saturn and Neptune square your natal Neptune, oppose your sun. That means that if you do not use 2024 as like the rerouting year, and you spend another year spinning your wheels, then in 2025, when you have, I'll show you, Saturn and Neptune in opposition to your sun square Neptune, then you're going to be like, okay, now I really need to get it together. So my advice is use this year to the best of your advantage. Probably what's going to end up happening is you're going to see when the eclipses start kind of coming in Pisces, which will be in the fall of 2024, there's going to be opportunities for home changes. There's going to be opportunities to get more so grounded. You're also going to see going into 2025 that it may go hand in hand with some changes in your career. But right now, we've got a Mercury retrograde that's going through your first house. It actually started in the second of Capricorn, and it's going retrograde back over your personal planets in Sag. So first it went over Jupiter, which was like, how can I be more optimistic? What am I investing in? What could bring me more security? How can I be better with money? Neptune, how am I feeling, right? What are my dreams? You know, it can be a lot about reevaluating your relationship with family and your emotions. And then it's going to go in conjunction to your Mars, which is about what you want to cut out and what you want to release. Some food for thought. During a Mercury retrograde, especially because Mercury rules your 7th house of relationships, and it also rules your 10th house of career, reputation, but also parenting, you may find that if you're like trying to connect with family or maybe even relationships, or if you have a partner, there's a sense of like people not really, you may feel like people aren't understanding you, or they're not getting where you're coming from. And I would just really recommend like take a step back, use the Mercury retrograde as an opportunity for people to give you feedback, right? Because Mercury rules your 7th house. So it can be counselors, therapists, trainers, romantic partners. Even your 7th house would represent your astrologer. So it's somebody who's giving you a different perspective. And the key here, I think, with Mercury retrograde in your first house is being open to change, getting that feedback and hearing what people are saying, because you may be kind of acting out or responding in ways that are subconscious that's actually keeping you from other people or keeping you from like connecting, right? Retrogrades can bring reversals too. So that's the other thing. Like I've seen people who have been having, mental health issues, physical health issues, blockages, and then they have a retrograde through the first house, and it gives them the opportunity to kind of reverse that situation. And so I think in so many ways, the Mercury retrograde over your Jupiter is a lot of at 3, okay, but what can I do physically, right? How can I start putting my goals into a position of like actually making them happen? How can I invest in myself? How can I be, better with my finances or my security? I will tell you that, Uranus is in your 6th house right now. Jupiter is going to be there in the new year. It is very possible that with Jupiter and Uranus coming into your 6th house, a change in your schedule, a change in your diet, a change in your fitness or your wellness might come up. Maybe implementing, right? Doing some energy healing, maybe bringing in, some herbal supplements or some aromatherapy, working with crystals, some Bach essences, something that can help you. Because these 2 planets are going to be quincunxing Mars in your first house, which is going to be bringing out excess frustration or anger or repressed stuff, things that are subconscious that you're not even aware are kind of hanging around. And I've seen a lot of people who have gone through these transits who have opted to go through therapy, or they're doing like past life regression work, they're doing hypnosis, those kinds of things that are really helping them kind of clear out some of these blockages. And Jupiter is going to go direct at the end of the month too. So at the end of December, when Jupiter goes direct, it's going to be a lot better for a lot of Sagittarius risings, because you guys are going to start to look around and go, okay, all of the challenges that I've had, what am I learning? I've learned to kind of pick myself up and to keep going. But even as we get into 2024, one of the big themes of next year is that you're going to see Jupiter go into your house of relationships, Saturn go deeper into your 4th house of home. You have the option of getting stuck in the past or isolating yourself or being at home, or meeting and connecting with other people. So Jupiter in the 7th house might mean that you're working with a therapist. It might mean that you're having a better relationship with a sibling. It might mean that a partner comes in and they offer to kind of help you or, talk to you more about how you're feeling so you don't feel so stuck. So you'll be in quite an interesting T-square even next year as Jupiter goes into your 7th house and it begins to square your sun and it opposes Neptune. Maybe you've seen my videos, but I'm all about making lemonade. So I feel like with Jupiter hitting your north node and planets going into your 7th house, this is giving you the opportunity to expand in relationships, get out of the past, and really start focusing on emotional wellness. And that may mean being more conscious and aware of your relationship with relatives or how you're feeling emotionally or where you're living, because Saturn and Neptune is trying to get you to think about that. And for, the Pisces energy in your 4th house, baths, chanting, music, creating a Zen space, something that you can kind of create that's like a spiritual area of your home that includes water can be really helpful. I have Saturn and Neptune in my chart natally in my 4th house, and definitely difficult when you have transits that are going through your 7th house because people are going to try to pull you out of it. So some things that you may consider other than working with coaches or focusing on partnerships can be that you're bringing people in who can help you with, letting go of excess trauma, especially relating to family or the past, if you're having a difficult time letting that go, or bringing in people who can help you move the energy around in your space. So somebody who does like clearings in your home, or maybe somebody who wants to come in and feng shui it. Bringing in water and music and art can really also help lift the mood and help you kind of get out of that funk. But you definitely have a chart between Neptune opposed your sun and Neptune coming into square with Neptune and Jupiter squaring. You would be somebody who would be really, benefited by probably sitting down and having a session with an astrologer once a year for the next 3 years. And it's not often that I tell people that they have to see someone or that they have to come back, but because this Neptune-Saturn square opposition to your sun is going to play out for about 2 or 3 years, it's really driving home the fact that something needs to change on the home front in order for you to kind of feel like you can have a little bit more peace, right? But look into some of those remedies revolving around the 4th house, the Pisces stuff that I talked about that can kind of help you with the mood. And you can use the Mercury retrograde right now to start kind of focusing on what you can change and how you can start to kind of look at some of the changes on the home front and emotionally a little bit differently. Hopefully that's helpful. Sending you lots of good vibes. Definitely those squares are not for the faint of heart, man. Mutable squares means like you feel like everything is just kind of like distorted, or it's hard to kind of understand or comprehend why certain things are happening. All right, so we're going to have last call in 5 minutes. So if you guys want to get in and you have a question, please do let me know. All right, let's see. Who else do we have here? What's up, Victoria? You can cash in on your membership. Sure. Thank you, Taliba. What's up, Chris? Did you want to cash in on your reading? Let me know. I'm going to put in some more charts. So if you guys want to give me a second, I'll plug these in. I know we have Victoria. Let's see. We'll pull her up in a second. And looks like we've got Chris. 11:50. All right, I think I just about have everybody. So last call, if you guys want to get in here, let me know. Looks like Todman got in there. Thank you guys. I appreciate your patience. Usually I put these in early. Hate to make you wait. All right, cool. So looks like we got everybody. So we're gonna take Victoria, and then we will take Chris. Thank you guys for being level 3 members. I appreciate it. All right, there we go. All right, let's see what Victoria says. Hey, sweet lady, can I cash in on my membership? Love you. It's me. Predict my full moon in Cancer, 11th house. I can listen tomorrow. I'm going to a comedy show. No worries. Well, let's look at the full moon. I really like the full moon, to be honest with you guys. The aspects, just looking at the moon because of the sextiles to Saturn and Jupiter, overall, like, I'm okay with it. It's the Mercury Mars stuff that's kind of like sticky. But so Victoria's asking about the full moon that we're going to have in Cancer. It's going to be on December 26th. This will be a completion of the 11th house themes, and the moon is returning back to its home sign. So it's generally pretty positive when we have that. It means it's kind of like playing with home field advantage. Full moons between the 5th and the 11th house deal with themes like my relationship to other people, what I create, what I share, what I love and who loves me. And it's being expressed through Capricorn and Cancer. So it can be a lot of like home and family goals. It can be about meeting with friends that feel like family, groups of people that feel like family, home style family dinners, things like that kind of happening in Cancer in your 11th house. What I like about this is that it is trining Saturn in your 7th. So strengthening the bonds of existing relationships, helping you connect more deeply to friends and also romantic relationships. I do think the fact that you have got a sextile to Jupiter makes me feel like it can be about friends and family from other places reaching out or like maybe going to visit you or vice versa. I do see that there is this Mercury retrograde happening in your 4th house. So you may feel like there's like a change of plans going on with how you're spending the holidays, who you're spending them with, who you're hanging out with, where you're going. And this Mercury-Mars conjunction is right on top of your South Node, ruled by Jupiter. And your natal Jupiter is located in the 4th. So it looks like there's some good, almost like some good karma that's going to be coming up where you're like reconnecting with soul tribe or like soul family, or maybe returning back to places that feel like home, or maybe there's people reaching out to you that like remind you of, feeling loved or secure, and a lot of like reflecting on the past, maybe reminiscing with old friends about old times. That's the other way that I could look at that. For me, it's really the Mercury retrograde that seems a little bit more complex. Being a Virgo rising and the Mercury retrograde from your 5th house to your 4th Does make me feel like if you're involved in a romantic relationship, the Mercury in the 4th conjunct Mars, which is about potential future home change, and the squares to Neptune is where and how that manifests and plays out, and how relationships are impacting your home, your emotions, or your living situation, or vice versa. So you might feel like there is some sense of pressure to change, reorganize, reevaluate, rework something about your home base to better suit relationships. This may also mean that there is some like outside pressure from home or from family when it comes to relationships. You might have like family members that are like, come home, come visit us, you know, bring your partner home with you. Like, when are we going to meet them? And family being a little pushy. But the full moon in itself with a sextile to Jupiter and a trine to Saturn does make me feel like it could be adventurous. It could be fun. There's lots of opportunity to get together with groups of people, see friends maybe you haven't seen for a while, and really kind of, really enjoy that. Especially with the moon trine Saturn, it makes me wonder if you're going to be like on the road. That's another way that could potentially manifest for you as well. And I'm wondering what it is. You know, you're having eclipses and stuff in the 8th house now. So it's about merging with other people, and it's about vulnerability and sharing with others, and even Jupiter on your Mars. So I'm kind of getting the feeling that maybe, even though like there may be some restless in relationships with Uranus on your Venus, that there's somebody who's coming in that's like, I can adapt to your lifestyle, like I can travel and move around too. Or somebody might be saying to you, are you going to do this forever? You know, when do you see yourself kind of settling and kind of getting situated? And you might kind of be taken back by that and be kind of questioning like, whoa, okay, you know, can I have this kind of wondrous 4th house lifestyle and a relationship, and like where relationships maybe are kind of blossoming, and maybe meeting some of your friends or some of your family, and you're starting to realize like, wow, this could be a very different, you know, dynamic than what you anticipated. But yeah, it's the Mercury retrograde. So I know you're out and about, but definitely like come back and let me know how this retrograde is manifesting, because we're going to have Mercury go into a conjunction this week with Mars. Okay, so it'll be right around the 27th at 24 degrees right here on the south node, and it's going to square Neptune. And so in many ways, this might be about how it's this push to really kind of finalize or make some changes, or maybe kind of cut out old ways of emotionally responding or living to make more space for relationships. And throughout that particular transit, it's also going to be trining your Mercury. The bigger picture of where you could see yourself when it comes to other people and kind of opening up. But this is also great for travel. This is great for learning. This is great for publishing. It's great for teaching. So yeah, let me know how this is manifesting for you. But definitely some interesting times. I'm really excited to see this stellium of planets that are going to move through your 5th house. I think it can definitely be like a very fun, creative, romantic time. Good luck. Let us all know what's happening with that. All right, so we've got, now we've got Chris. What's up, Chris? So I've got you here, December 27, 74, 10:30 a.m. Just want to make sure that's correct. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. So Chris says exams 2 days in a row in July 2024, another exam November 2024. How will I do? Very important for my career. I'm in Australia. Okay, cool. Gotcha. So let's take a look. Let's see. So July and November. Do you have specific dates, or you just know it's that month? So Mercury could be exams. Mars could be exams, because Mars is about higher education in your chart. Something I noticed that's happening in July is we're going to see Mars's ingress into Gemini. And it's going to conjunct Jupiter, which is your chart ruler. So this can be about some kind of positive, forward momentum when it comes to learning. And this could be about certifications or programs or testing. It is on your moon. So this does mean that you can be feeling like there's like a lot of pressure to kind of get the show on the road with what you're doing. But I think Mars conjunct Jupiter is big energy. And I feel like because you are Jupiter and Mars is about motivation, this conjunction is extremely positive. So that's going to be happening from about the 20th of July forward. Let's see. Okay. Something else to think about is, I don't know if you have a say on when you schedule things or how this works, but probably one of the highlights of 2024 is that we are going to see Jupiter conjunct Uranus, and then we're going to see Mars conjunct Uranus. So the energy from April to July is just like action-packed. So when I think about scheduling dates that I would not recommend, the 15th, 16th, as the moon goes into Scorpio and it opposes this, those would not be the days that I would be doing that, just me personally. We're also going to see Mercury square. So 15th, 16th are kind of like days that I would either try to not schedule or I would reschedule. But I think the Jupiter-Mars conjunction that you're going to have, that's going to eventually happen, first kind of conjunct your South Node, and then in August may materialize as being like, okay, I got a good grade. Something to consider, though, is that these two conjunctions, or this conjunction, it's like busy, right? It's like, okay, I did one, now I got to do another. Or there's a lot of communication, there's a lot of information, there's a lot of reading or traveling that's involved or studying. And that's going to square Saturn. So Saturn is a restricting energy. Jupiter is an expansive energy. So I feel inclined to tell you, even though you may do well with the first one, don't go like up, whatever, the second one's going to be easy. Like, you still have to stay focused because Jupiter and Saturn are going to square, basically the whole second half of 2024. So Saturn kind of limits Jupiter's ability to do too much. And this makes me feel like you may be moving or you may be traveling, or there's some sense of moving from one place to another. And you may have a lot going on leading up to taking this test. So yeah, it's important to kind of schedule anything around this. If you know that you're going to have like a week where you need to be really focused and studying, I think you're going to get some of your best studying in, quite frankly. I mean, you could be doing this now because Mercury's retrograde over your sign. As soon as you get into, I would say like the end of April, you're going to start having planets going into your third house, which can be about mental focus, and it's going to be trining all of this stuff here. Okay. No dates yet. I do have these days only in July. Otherwise, next year in February. No, that's fine. Just the dates that I gave you, those are the ones that I would be weary of personally. And don't get too overly optimistic, and be mindful that changes in your schedule with your family or a move can inhibit your ability to be focused. When I look at November, we're going to have Mars coming into a trine with your North Node. That's great. We're going to have Mars sextile the moon. We're going to have Mars that will oppose Pluto. Okay, where's Mercury in the midst of all this? Mercury is going to be in Sag. So once again, if you have a say in when you can do it, we do not want to do this when either Mercury, if we can help it, it would be great if it's the first. I don't know what that day that would be. But Mercury is going to go into Sag, which is its fall. And we're going to see Mercury trine the North Node. So right around November 6th. Then we're going to start to see Mercury come into a square with Saturn. And so that mid-November time, not the easiest for communication or for learning. Okay. So be mindful, 13th, 14th, 15th, that's a little sticky. But then we're going to have Mercury turn retrograde on the 26th. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. This might mean you're returning back and having to do another exam, but Mercury is going to be still coming into a square with Saturn and Neptune. So there's like very few sweet spots that you basically can do this in November. Intuitively, I have this feeling because Mars is in shadow, it's going to go retrograde in these degrees and Mars rules education, that there may be a rescheduling of the second date. That's just my feeling on the matter. So if I'm wrong, I hope I'm wrong, then a decent time for you to do this is going to be when Mars and the moon come into the 6th house and it starts to trine Mercury right around the 20th, right? So yeah, very few times in November, but this may be rescheduled because Mars is, like I said, it's in shadow. So there might be like a turn of events with how you're taking the test or where you're taking the test. I'm not going to say don't worry about it as long as you're, you know, I think if you're passing the first one, it's going to be a lot easier. But I don't think that the rescheduling is anything that you're going to have a lot of control over because school education, higher education is Mars and Mars is in shadow. Actually, it enters into shadow like, man, I want to say, I want to say it's like right around mid-October. And it makes sense because it's going to be in opposition to your sun, right? And then as a Capricorn, I think about how, you know, Mercury is connected to higher mind and education. So you'll see through that Mercury retrograde that's going to happen in Sag that you're returning and maybe, you know, they're rescheduling a day or something. So just don't worry about November right now. Be more mindful of what's going on with the springtime because I want to make sure that you're leaving yourself ample time to make sure that you're studying coming into that exam. But it looks to me like the transits are really good with Jupiter and Mars coming into conjunction. So the first one's going to be a lot easier. If the second one gets moved, it's not the end of the world. But it would have been better if Mercury was in Scorpio, personally. And Mercury is going to retrograde through Sag, so it's going to be very similar to what's going on right now. Mercury retrograde square Neptune. Nobody knows what's going to happen. There can be like a sense of doubting our mental capabilities or having some rescheduling going on. So if that happens, don't worry. It looks like somewhere around the Kazemi, maybe at the beginning of December, you're like, okay, now I know when I'm going to take it. And Mercury is going to be right over your Mars. So if it gets delayed into December, don't freak out. It's almost like better, or if they give you an option to do something like that that gets pushed for whatever reason, take the later date. Okay. And obviously work with Mercury. Hello. Because, you know, Mercury is going to be in a trine to Jupiter. So during Mercury retrogrades, that can help you. You can ask Jupiter for help too. Jupiter's your co-ruler. So like, you know, doing affirmations and trying to maybe do meditations on Jupiter or like leaving Jupiter offerings, that can really, really help because Jupiter is going to be in opposition to your Mars, right? It is what it is. Sending you all the good vibes in your studies, but it looks like you're going to kill it, especially in the springtime. Hopefully that's helpful for you. What's up, Dawn? Dawn says, so do I put my birthplace? I'm in Central Texas now. Yeah, we want your birthplace. That's what we want. All right, so now we're going to have Lynn, Claudia, Ashley, and then Dawn. All right, so we've got Lynn here, January 8th, 1982, 10:30 a.m. Oops, is that the right time? No. 8:01 a.m. I'm going to change that, don't worry. 8:01 a.m. PayPal changed their format on me. I'm annoyed. It's a very Mercury retrograde-y thing. But it used to make it easy for me to copy the information, and now it's not so easy. Okay, so I've got you here 8:01 a.m., Lynn. Question is, can you tell me about my life partner? Let's do it. So when we look at Lynn's chart and holy cardinal squares here, my dear, look at all this stuff. So, obviously the theme of relationships and finding like your person is a huge theme in your life because you've got a stellium of planets in Libra, which is relationship oriented. It all squares the north and the south node. Okay. So usually with a chart like this, it means that the, actions, lessons, and transformations in relationship, which may feel like going in and out of relationship, breaking apart in relationships sometimes, having some kind of karma in relationships, some difficult lessons comes up for you. And whether that's not getting on well with everybody or feeling like you bring in partners that have some issues, there's something here that you're having to clear out to move from your past life into your future kind of destiny, if you believe in that stuff. I believe that we keep coming back here because we have stuff to work through, and squares to the nodes can show us very clearly like where we are very reluctant souls and unwilling to do that work. So sometimes when we come in with this lifetime where we have all these planets that square, it'll just keep driving home over and over and over these lessons until we're like, okay, that's enough. I've had enough. Like, I got it. So it seems like that's what you have. Because the South Node and the Sun are in the 12th house, I'm just going to speculate that in the past, there has been a sense of becoming too used to hiding away, checking out, not wanting to be seen. You know, you've got the kind of placements of somebody who's like a priest or a monk or a nun, or, you know, somebody who wants to like just do their work in private and be kind of left alone. You're probably really excellent with business also, South Node, Sun, and Capricorn. But there is a sense of being like, let me manage things behind the scenes. And part of what comes up with these squares of, you know, planets in Libra is like, no, that's not what's going to happen. You're not going to get to control things behind the scenes. You have to work through some tough stuff in relationships, whether it's about who's in control, or it can be about lessons also in regards to relationships with people professionally, because that does belong to your whole sign 10th house. You get what I'm saying? Something about relationships has not been easy for you. The reason why I preface all of this is I'm building into your 7th house where you have the moon. The moon is the ruler. Okay. So being a Cap sun, Cap rising, Saturn in your whole sign 10th, it's very obvious that you're somebody who's very focused on responsibility, showing up, being in control, managing things. And Cancer on the descendant means that partners are emotional, they're sensitive, they're moody, they can be feminine. There can be a sense of them kind of coming and going. There can be a sense of them also retreating sometimes, or being hypersensitive. The moon rules the 7th house. It's in the 5th, not a bad placement. Looks like you were born right as you were coming into a full moon. So this really, really creates that highlight on, you know, the polarity between you and other people. Generally what I do to assess the partner is I look at a couple different things. My go-to technique, and this has worked beautifully for a lot of my clients, and it was very real for my life as well, my relationship. You take the ruler of the 7th house, and that is the moon, and the moon is at home in the sign of Cancer in the Placidus 5th house. So when you have your 7th house lord in the 5th house, it means that they could be younger. It means that they could be somebody who's got the energy of the 5th house, which could be Leo, okay? And this could be sun, moon, or rising. They could be Leo. The moon is at 0 degrees, which is a cardinal point, so you might meet them in the midst of summer. It's also in the 5th house, which could be, you know, you meet them at a bar, you meet them at a playhouse, you meet them at a casino, at a gathering, and it's at 0 degrees. So my view on this is it's either going to be a combination of Leo, Cancer, especially double Cancer with 28 on the descendant, and somebody that you meet right in the middle of summertime, basically. Cancer in the 5th house can also be somebody who's very sensitive and like loving and generous when it comes to children or family. Like they may have a sense of wanting to really share that kind of romantic connection and kind of play house and build a home with someone. I look at your Mercury, okay, which is the mind, conjunct Venus. And this means that there is a sense of trying to kind of like intellectualize emotions and feelings. Aquarius can be really kind of free and matter of fact and kind of like robotic. And you have Venus retrograde. So you love differently, right? The way that you love, how you love, it's different. It's unusual. What I think is this, with that in a quincunx to your moon, there seems to be in this lifetime, in my opinion, a lot of working out like what it is that you actually need in order to feel loved, and trying to kind of better express that to other people. There can be a sense of, you know, with all of this like Saturn energy in your chart, that you're very much somebody who's like hyper, like I said, responsible and focused on like control and responsibility. And like I would say, when it comes to your partners, this is going to be very attracting somebody who can be the opposite of that. Like the moon in the 5th house is somebody who's youthful and they're funny and they're sensitive and they're emotional and they're playful and they're creative, and you have all this like kind of like boss energy. So it's going to be bringing somebody in who's complementary to your energy, which is beautiful because you have all of this like Capricorn in your chart. So it would really kind of better balance you out, and it would nurture your moon if you had somebody who had placements that would, you know, kind of be around those degrees. I would imagine maybe you've kind of had some Cancer kind of connections with people in the past. Maybe it was difficult because you felt like you were more comfortable in your South Node, but I would say the more that you're integrating people who are family oriented, creative, playful, younger, right? Or maybe even have kids. That's one way of looking at it. Being that you have Venus retrograde also conjunct Mercury, I mean, not to get like too personal, but like this can also mean that you're really open when it comes to the type of people that you're attracted to. So sometimes that can be people who are like open to both sexes. Sometimes it means that you're more open to people who are kind of different or kind of like unique or kind of like quirky. You may be attracted, if you do date men, to like more feminine men, or men that are like a little bit like more sensitive and yeah, just a little bit more emotionally available and kind of wear their heart on their sleeve. Even though Capricorn and Cancer are polar opposites, I actually feel like just having more of this energy in your life is going to kind of balance this chart out a little bit. I also feel like having Cancer in your chart trines Jupiter, which can be about long-term partnerships in a woman's chart. And your Jupiter is at a 7. It's in Scorpio in the 9th house. So it also means that you may do well with people who are culturally different, from foreign places, maybe people that you meet in higher education or while you're traveling, or if you're at an airport. Even the ruler or the dispositor of your Jupiter is Mars, and it's in the 8th house. So it's like, I feel like you meet people, or you may meet people when they are going through big life changes or transformations, or they're coming out of things. It's very possible for you with some of these placements that you have connected to Libra in the 8th house. Long-term relationship stuff, when you see some really nice aspects to your moon, you're going to start to see relationships really kind of evolve and develop. You got to look at your like progress chart and other stuff too. But, you know, right now, this year, Saturn has been in Pisces, and it's been trining your moon, which rules the 5th house. So maybe it's been more about being like, okay, I need to get out in the community more. I need to talk to people more. I need to really be building on my self-esteem, feeling solid and secure with who I am. And then what's going to happen over the next 2 years is Saturn's going to trine your North Node, and then Saturn is going to start to trine your descendant. So I could definitely see relationship stuff developing. I think that you have been in like your little cocoon for the last couple of years, with Pluto on your ascendant going through a huge, profound personal change. Saturn on your ascendant 2020 on, which is a lot about kind of reinventing yourself and kind of figuring out how to go things your own way. And probably when Pluto's off of your ascendant in this next year, and you start to see Jupiter sextile, Uranus sextile, and then by, you know, the second half of 2024, Saturn starting to trine your North Node, relationships can definitely really kind of start to evolve. Okay. Maybe go and look at transit Pluto coming into conjunction with Venus over the next couple of years. That could definitely be like a really big love story that could be playing out for you as well. And watch those eclipses. Damn, they're like all over your stuff. You're going to have an eclipse actually that's going to be right in opposition to your Saturn in the spring. So there's a lot of things that are activating all of this karma revolving around relationships. Hopefully that's helpful for you. We've got Claudia, Ashley, and then Dawn. All right, so Claudia is May 12, 71 at 11:35 p.m. in El Salvador. Sorry, guys. Like I said, freaking PayPal. change their format on me. So it's so much harder to do these charts now. Okay, there we go. So Claudia says, reading. Okay, this is my info. What's up, Claudia? How's it going? Let me know what your question is. I'll catch up on what everybody else is saying. I'm just seeing your message now, Angela. You're welcome. I'm glad I was able to give you some insight there. So it looks like, Claudia, you're an Aquarius rising, sun in Taurus, and your moon is in Sagittarius. So you have got Pluto creeping up on your Mars, Jupiter coming in conjunction with your IC. You have been in the midst of Uranus square the nodes. Ah! How's that been going? How's your home life going? Uranus is getting very, very, very close to coming back to your Sun and your Saturn here. So buckle up, girl. Being an Aquarius rising, you know, Saturn and Uranus rule your chart. Career, finances, and health. Well, let me know which one you want. I can tell you right now that as far as I'm concerned, yes, all of these things are getting triggered. Okay, so to put it simple, Saturn's coming into your second house next year, and it's going to stay there, which basically means you're really working on, you know, committing more to your values, your self-esteem, and really building on your spending power, and you're learning to be a little bit more resourceful and maybe not spending as much or saving more because you're focusing on what your security or how you look at security, what you're investing into your home or your family. Health-wise, you know, Pluto's going into Aquarius, so it's not on your ascendant yet, but over the next few years, it's going to get very close to your Mars, which tells me that you need to be careful because there can be a sense of like dealing with burnout or being overly exhausted, which I think you're already feeling now with Saturn in your first house and Saturn square your Neptune. So there can be a sense of like, where am I going? Pluto rules your 10th house, as does Mars. So I think about how at the end of 2024, going into 2025, Pluto's going to sit on your Mars, which means it's going to do one of a few things. It will kill off one career and create a new one, or there'll be some big transformation of your career behind the scenes. It's at a 4, so I feel like this is about empowerment emotionally and feeling like you can do a job and not feel like it's like killing you on the inside or breaking your spirit. When you have major transits to, your natal Mars, I mean, that's what's going to really bring some changes. And I feel like for you, it's about the way that you look at the power of your career and doing more of what you want to do. In the background, I'm looking at eclipses in your 3rd house. I'm looking at, you know, Jupiter that's still in your 3rd house. This can be about training, certificates, certifications, learning something new. And I'm looking at Uranus coming into conjunction with your Sun and Saturn. Like, what? So I don't know what's going on here, but this tells me that there's about to be some radical changes with your relationship with men in the family. So whether that's father figures, brothers, husbands, male roommates, Uranus conjunct the Sun is about rebelling and some kind of freedom and liberation from the past, maybe from your family lineage of feeling like, you know, life is hard, money is hard to come by, things are difficult, you have to do it all by yourself. Very Sun Saturn. Uranus is liberating that. So there's a sense of you being like, no, I don't have to continue to feel like I don't have, you know, I don't have power, or that I can't have wealth, or that I can't have financial freedom. And so there's a lot of kind of you being kind of scrappy and being like, where can I save money? Where can I invest more into what I'm learning? How can I be able to kind of liberate myself from this feeling of being stuck? So Uranus on your IC, electrical issues, static with family, weirdness in the neighborhood, but Uranus coming into conjunction with your Sun and Saturn, I think is going to be you going, I can move to other places where I can have a better kind of, lifestyle, or I can have more freedom. Just being from El Salvador, I don't know if you live there or not anymore, but it'll be interesting to watch as Uranus goes through there, because it means that there's going to be a huge financial shift and liberation in your home country. And I don't know what you know about that whole part of the world right now, but they're all about to become like Bitcoin kings and queens. So it's literally about, you know, a financial rebellion and a huge shift in regards to electronic money, right? Uranus and Taurus. What may also come up is if you have family that's got home or property in that part of the world, it may become very valuable, and you guys may contemplate whether or not you sell land, buy land, develop land, if you're holding on to something because it's going to end up being kind of like worth something down the road. That's the other exciting thing that can happen with the Uranus transits. But yeah, okay, so if you grew up in California, watch what's going on over there, because it's in your chart, that's where you were born. Career-wise also, you know, Uranus has been in opposition to your ascendant, to your midheaven for the last 2 years. In this next year, when Saturn goes into the second and you're committing more to quality and really making sure that you're getting what you need, Saturn will trine your midheaven. So you'll have some kind of support, but it's only if you're doing a type of job that you feel like emotionally fulfilled and like connected to, if that makes sense, right? Anyway, obviously right now, you know, you got a Mercury retrograde that's going on, and you've got some Mars conjunct stuff that's making you really reevaluate what some of your goals are going into the future with your career. All next year, you just have to make sure that you feel emotionally connected to what you're doing, and be ready for there to be some wildness in regards to the home and the family. I'm buying land in 2024. Yeah, it looks like it. Saturn coming into a sextile here. And with Uranus on your Sun and Saturn, like it could be that you're buying land and it could be agricultural, or that you're buying a bunch of plots that, you know, you'll sell off, or you'll, you know, divide it up, or you'll develop it, or maybe you're buying it with other people. Something like that may start happening. And I think that that is a great way to start building wealth with some of the transits that you're having. It's brilliant. Just enjoy that Pluto transit behind the scenes. It's about becoming kind of like a little mastermind of how you're, you know, navigating and making changes with your career behind the scenes. Hope that's helpful for you. We're going to have Ashley, Dawn, and then Christine. There we go. Ashley, I've got you here. October 21st, 1980, 8:58 a.m. in Portland, Oregon. Ashley says, hey Candace, I just want to see what's in store for me the next couple of months. Any insight or advice? Thank you. All right, well, we've got you here. Scorpio rising, Sun in Libra, and your moon is in Pisces. Thank you, Claudia. I appreciate it. It's so great getting the feedback from people. Like when I give you guys readings and you let me know, it lets me know I'm not crazy, because I'm just talking to a camera in a room and I can't see anybody. So thank you. I appreciate it. All right. So Ashley, something that really comes to mind for me with your transits right now is that you got some pretty strong squares and oppositions that are building. So I'm going to kind of give you the rundown with some stuff that's involving some outer planets that are definitely worthy of mentioning. So I look at, you know, being a Scorpio rising, you may resonate more with some of the transits that you have in the Sagittarius rising chart. Okay, so you've got Saturn going through the fourth house like a Sagittarius rising would. What I'm looking at is Saturn in the fourth house and some of the aspects that it's making with Mars. So Mars is your traditional chart ruler. Mars in the first house, Saturn in the fourth is squaring this. So it is trying to get you to think about your emotions, your home, and your long-term goals, and whether or not you're needing to kind of put down roots or kind of take your time and seeing like where you want to be in the long term. And then two, oh, okay, we met recently about my relationship. I want to see what's going on. Okay. And then two, I'm looking at Pluto squaring your sun. So this is big changes and transformations, obviously in relationships, but how you think and how you communicate. So Pluto is your co-ruler. And this is about breaking out of patterns where you have felt like there's been a lot of mental disturbances because of changes in relationships and the home. So that's going to start easing up now. Next year, we're going to see Pluto in Aquarius from 0 to 2 degrees. It'll come back to Capricorn in the fall briefly, but you're out of the exact square. So that pressure is getting ready to release. So I feel like breakthroughs in communication and how you express yourself is very likely. I'm also looking at Neptune coming into conjunction with your moon again. And so this might get you thinking about romantic connections with people in other places. This may have you taking up new hobbies that involve like mysticism, spirituality, meditation. It can bring in new teachers and new mentors because that's what the ninth house is. It can also give you the opportunity to start expressing yourself in a creative way with like music or design or art. Your moon is at 27, so it's a Gemini degree. So I feel like it might be reading tarot. It might be about writing music, writing poetry, using doing photography, something with your hands, basically. Is there some kind of crafting or something that you do that you feel like, it sounds weird, but that you're very like in tune, like in the flow of doing some kind of like hobby? Does that make sense? It could be knitting, it could be painting, but there's something that you're going to be doing that's like kind of picking up as Neptune comes into conjunction with your moon. Now, on the flip side, this can make you very, very psychically tapped in, okay? Because Neptune can be about visions and dreams and mysticism, and the moon is about your kind of philosophy and like the bigger picture of life. Oh, you've been doing tarot? Okay. I mean, over the next 2 years, Saturn and Neptune will come into conjunction with your moon. So I feel like it's a really great way to utilize the transit and like really learn to check in with yourself. And it can be really creative and artistic and beautiful. Like I would encourage you maybe to consider even like maybe making a deck, designing a deck. You might start incorporating that into design or photography, but there's going to be something else that's going to kind of come from that I think can be like really creative and inspiring. The fifth house is about what you do. That is about self-expression. And then next year, we talked a little bit, obviously, about Saturn coming further into Pisces and opposing your Venus in the 10th house. There's a lot of like, okay, getting feedback from other people, having relationships, socializing, working. And what you're learning now is you're getting into these transits in the like second part of the second quadrant of the chart is, well, what about me and how I feel and like what makes me happy and like, like what am I doing for fun? So it becomes this very fifth house kind of self heart space oriented like type of thing for you, to learn how to kind of integrate more on a spiritual or on a creative level. I've seen a lot of people when Neptune are on their moon, they will actually have like visions of the future. I've seen that with Uranus transits as well. And being a Libra, you have Jupiter and Uranus 8th house to your sun. So you're going to hear things like for Libra risings, inheritances, big changes, money coming in, having support, psychological breakthroughs, like maybe. But I definitely feel like, it's very possible that there could be new relationships and people who can come into your life with these sextiles in your 7th house to your moon that make you believe in love again, or they make you believe in like relationships again, or they teach you that, you can have like that like fairy tale kind of whimsical thing. And I think many Scorpio risings are going to be very surprised and pleased to see just like all of the positive things that can happen in relationships next year. So some people are coming out of relationships with Uranus being kind of like a troublemaker. Other people are coming out of situations where they haven't been dating for some time and now they're open to it. For you, you have Jupiter in opposition to your Mercury. So it's definitely going to be people who are giving you positive affirmations, feedback, encouragement, trying to get you out of your comfort zone, trying to get you to kind of communicate. And obviously Mercury Uranus being in your first house, there is a sense of kind of like not being sure if you want to trust people. So Jupiter and Uranus in opposition is like a great time for obviously working with an astrologer, having counselors, therapists, and people who can get you out of your comfort zone, who can encourage you to find the pleasure in relationships again. And you're in your Uranus opposition. So there's like a lot of like old ways of thinking that are, I think, like dissolving because it's at a 24 and it's changing the way that you communicate and also the way that you see the world. And maybe, you know, through maybe tarot or other spiritual practices, like it's teaching you how to communicate and connect with yourself on a better, like on a better level, like where there's more depth. But maybe you're doing readings for other people, and that's also like helping encourage the way that you kind of communicate and connect with others. So it can be really opening the door to having more depth and richness in relationships, and like really radically changing relationships for you as well. Eclipses in your 5th house, having fun. And I think really the only thing to kind of watch for is that, you know, in this next year, you're going to continue to see eclipses that are going to be in Libra and Aries. So the South Node is now swinging through all this Libra. Now it's in the 11th house. So there may be some changes in friendships. But, you know, from somebody who has their natal North Node in the 5th house and the South Node in the 11th, what I have essentially learned is that like you can have a ton of friends, but that doesn't necessarily make you happy. And you can go to parties and be in rooms filled with people and like follow what everybody else is doing because the 11th house is the crowd, but that may not be what you want to do. So what you're going to learn with the North Node going through your 5th house is you're going to be like, there's things that I want to do. And even if I have to do it on my own, so be it. And you're going to be following more of like your passions, and in some weird way that still may materialize as long as you're making time for it, for you to have better, stronger connections to people who may share similar interests as you. Okay. Hopefully that's helpful for you. All right, so we've got Dawn, Christine, and Stephanie, and Dwan. Is that everybody? Let me see. Let me make sure. Let's see. Yeah, that's the peoples that I got. All right, so let's move now to Dawn. You're welcome. All right, Dawn, I've got you here May 11th, 66 at 11:50 a.m. And that was in Jersey. What is in my near future? Relationship, moving, staying home. Thank you. I love your program. Recently ended a relationship after 12 years. Curious what might be coming. All right. Leo rising, sun in Taurus, moon in Aquarius. I've noticed it's like sun in Taurus night, huh? There's a lot of Tauruses out there. You guys are all up at night eating your snacks, watching astrology videos with Uranus on your sun. All right, so here's the thing. Perhaps a lot of the relationship changes are stemming from the fact that you're in some really strong Uranus transits. So Uranus rules your 7th house of relationships, okay? There's a reason why Leo risings always have some kind of drama in relationships, because there's some kind of fluctuation, change, evolution happening, because Aquarius rules your 7th house. Uranus is coming into contact with all of your personal planets. It's been here for some time, actually, Dawn. So it's been shaking up a lot in your 10th house about your public status. It could be your career. It could be about how you express yourself, how people know you. And sometimes Uranus in the 10th house materializes as breakups and separations. So you go from being in a partnership to being single. Sometimes you go from having one job to being jobless or having a new position. It presents you with a lot of unexpected changes, okay? So unexpected changes happen when you have Uranus involving your 7th house and coming into conjunction with your chart ruler. Really, kind of in the back of my mind, I see Uranus coming into conjunction with your sun and your North Node, where you're wanting to reinvent yourself in some way. Your sun is at a 20 degrees. So even though you're a Taurus, you express yourself in a Taurus fashion. Your sun's in the 10th house, which means like, well, Don, look at that 10th house stellium. You're the boss. You definitely like things to go a certain way. And as long as people are going with things the way that you want them to go, or in a pleasurable manner, you're good. But if somebody disrupts the apple cart and they go against that, or they're not allowing you to kind of have a say in things, or kind of navigate or manage things, then there can be lots of disruption. So Uranus on your Mars and your Sun has probably been bringing some like hot ass meltdowns in relationships and some issues revolving around control or who has a say in things. Yeah, I gotta love Uranus transits. Your sun being at 20 degrees means that you're going through a period of change and you're recognizing or realizing maybe that in certain relationships, you can manage them until the cows come home, but it's gonna like make you crazy and it's gonna get you frustrated. And part of that may be also because there can be a sense of you wanting or expecting or assuming that other people are going to meet you on your level. And I'm gonna tell you right now, not everybody is going to be able to do that. A lot of the reasons why is because, I mean, you have a 10th house stellium. Not everybody's going to show up and be as, honorable and on time and responsible as you. And part of the signature in your chart, because you have Sun conjunct the North Node, is like learning how to take charge and be like, this is what makes me happy, or this is what I need, or, this is my goal, and you're going after it. You're actually actively cleaning out some kind of karma. Because you have your Neptune conjunct the South Node. Okay, so planets on the North Node, future Dharma destiny. Planets on the South Node, kind of playing out old trauma drama, especially in Scorpio. So to me, it seems like there's been a reoccurring theme maybe in your love life or in relationships where, maybe you feel like men are, or partners are not always there or they abandon you. Okay, Sun opposed Neptune. There can also be this feeling of not always seeing people so clearly, or feeling like people desert you, or that they leave, or that relationships dissolve. A lot of this is because you have South Node conjunct Neptune in the 4th house. So it tells me that maybe you experienced that in your family. Maybe there's been a reoccurring pattern of like seeing like single moms, or relationships kind of dissolve, or, people living in situations where they're not getting their needs met. And it's almost made you like super hyper, like capable. And you're like, get out of my way. I can do it myself. I don't need you, and that's part of your North Node with the North Node, Sun and Mars in the 10th. Equally, you also have this square your moon. So there is this sense of like wanting partnership and relationship and wanting something that's unconventional, but at the same time, like still kind of wanting to go your way, right? So basically what I'm getting at is the last several years you've had Uranus that's been bringing all of this out and bringing it to your attention. And my advice is with Uranus on your sun, be more focused on what you can change and do your best to not pay attention to what you cannot control with other people. You're the boss of yourself. If other people don't want to get in line and they don't want to see what you bring to the table, put that energy into something else. Like this is so great for initiating businesses, for meeting people professionally, for getting out there and connecting with the right people. Now next year, Jupiter and Uranus in April are going to come into conjunction. Jupiter is the ruler of your 5th house, which can be about younger people, romance, true love, creativity, having fun. And Uranus rules relationships. And I've seen so many damn Leo risings that have had so much drama in their relationships. And I keep telling them like, hey, spring of next year, it's going to pop. So if you're not in the right relationship, a lot of Pluto's ingress coming up in the next month or two is going to be about being like, hey, we got to let certain relationships go if it's not working. The promise of Pluto is that it does kill something off and bring something new. You're going to have Jupiter and Uranus sitting on top of your sun, which means like if you're out and about in the world, you might meet somebody who kind of gives you more of what you're looking for. You may also find with Jupiter and Uranus sitting conjunct your North Node, it's excellent if you're looking for a career, if you're wanting to work, if you want to launch a business, if you want to work independently. It's very entrepreneurial. If not, it might mean that you're like, hey, I'm retiring, right? Sometimes Jupiter Uranus is like going out with a bang. But for some people, it's about changes in their status. And I could see a path forward where there is definitely like spring, summer of 2024, a lot of you being like, okay, you know what, this is done. And like maybe you move out and you're out in the world and you're more social and like you end up meeting somebody that you really hit it off with, right? Outer planets will do this. And what's really amazing is that with Jupiter and Uranus on your North Node in opposition to Neptune in the South Node is that you're really kind of saying like, I'm not going to get stuck in the sadness of the past. I'm not going to fall back into old familiar relationships with people who desert me. I'm really focusing on showing up for myself. And you're feeling good about kind of being the boss a little bit, right? So yeah, I really think that, you know, things can definitely get better. That North Node is coming into a conjunction with your Venus here pretty soon. And if I remember correctly, you may also have an eclipse that's going to be pretty close to your Venus as well. And you have Venus in the 9th house. So that can mean about, people who are culturally different or diverse, maybe people who are in a foreign land. Okay, here we go. So we're going to have on March 25th, 2024, we are going to have a lunar eclipse in Libra. And this is ruled by Venus. And Venus will be conjunct Saturn in the 8th house. So this can be about like moving through the blocks, the karmic blocks in relationships. 2 weeks later, we have another eclipse. This eclipse is going to be in Aries. And it's right around the time of your Venus return. So I would say like March, April, you can definitely see some changes in relationships. And then specifically watch when Venus comes into conjunction with Uranus. You might meet somebody just out in the world or at work if you're working. And you're going to have a Venus-Juno transit. So right around May 3rd through, I would say, like the 21st. Like the month of May is like, it's on like Donkey Kong. Something's going on here where you're having all these Jupiter, Uranus, Venus transits. And it could be a very different relationship. So it's only a matter of a few months away. And what I'm loving is like come the beginning of 2025, the North Node's conjunct Venus. It's at a 7. I think you'll be in a relationship with somebody who's going to live somewhere else. Or they're culturally diverse in some way. Even Saturn, which is the traditional ruler of your 7th, will oppose your 2nd house. So it can represent a kind of like a back and forth that you're doing next year. But yeah, more or less, I do see better things that are kind of coming. So yeah, just remind yourself, you want people who are not going to be like investment relationships. This is not HGTV. We're not going to flip a boyfriend. Like, we're not going to do that and turn them into prime real estate, because I could see where you would want to do that. And I would just say focus more on what's going on with yourself and be bringing people in who are going to be a little bit more self-sufficient. Right? Younger. Also, Jupiter rules your 5th house of children. So it could mean that your relationship with kids come in. But your 7th house ruler, Uranus, is in the 2nd conjunct Pluto. So likely when you go through some major change in a relationship, that's when you're going to meet somebody else. Right? You're going to have Jupiter trine your 7th house. There's so much room for like joining new groups and socializing and like doing some stuff with people socially, like in the neighborhood, or joining some groups, some walking groups, some social groups, some social clubs. That's going to open up trines to your moon. You're going to have so many opportunities to meet people next year. Thank you, Dawn. I appreciate it. Circle back. Let us know who you end up meeting. Very, very curious. We've got Stephanie and then Dwan. What's up, Stephanie? Are you here? Or are you watching the playback? S. Todman, excuse me. Hey, Candace, I ended up spending all the Mercury retrograde in New York. I currently live in LA. I'm not sure I'm supposed to be learning this time around. Please help. Oh boy. All right. So a couple things. Being a Libra rising and having Mercury, which started its retrograde in the 4th house, okay, is a lot about where am I currently living and do I return back somewhere else? Do I move? Do I move into a place, move out of a place, return back to a place, rent a new place? That's really what this is about. Mercury rules your 12th house, which means it could be your subconscious, changes in your sleeping patterns, also some changes in regards to just kind of feeling like you're mentally frazzled. And Mercury is retrograding into your 3rd, which is going to be in Sagittarius, and it's going to be in its fall. Now, here's where things get a little sticky, okay? Now Mercury is in an opposition to your natal Mercury, and it squares Neptune. So when Mars hits your South Node, which will be around the 27th and the 28th, it'll also conjunct Mercury. And I'm going to tell you right now, I do not want you making an impulsive decision, because I could see you doing something impulsively about traveling, moving, relocating. And like, this mutable T-square scares the hell out of me, personally. Because it means that you might like quickly sign a lease or buy a ticket, or you're scrambling to move to a place, and you're going to feel like you're just crunched on time, and you're going to feel like you don't have enough time to make everything happen. Equally, you need to take a step back and take a breather, because you're having planets activating your third house south node, which is where you feel mentally frazzled, and opposing your north node, Mercury. Like, there could be legal issues relating to leases that can come up. There can also be some travel delays, some issues with communication. Like, do not make any rush decisions about traveling or where you're living at this time. That's my advice. What's going to happen is that through the Mercury retrograde, Mercury is actually going to station at 22 degrees, which is going to trine your Venus, which means you may have a girlfriend or a female friend or somebody who says, hey, I've got a place for you, or, you know, hey, come and stay with me if you need some more time to figure it out, or, you know, how can I help you? And that's the way out, right? Usually when there is a retrograde, we reevaluate something, or we return back, or we change our mind. And so I could see with Mercury going direct on New Year's Day, and then Mercury is going to come back into Capricorn, which is your whole sign fourth house. It's going to start trining Jupiter. You're going to have a better idea of if you want to move, where you want to stay, where you want to be closer to January 18th, 2024. Yeah, it's about a month away. And so that's why I'm wondering if this Mercury retrograde trine Venus is going to be about buying some more time and finding somebody who's got a sublease, or somebody who's got a place that you can stay at before you eventually make a bigger decision with where you're going to go. I will say this, the Mercury retrograde started at 8 degrees. So, you know, it's about change, basically. Change, death, you know, transformation, regeneration. And it was right on your IC, and it's been in a trine to Jupiter, which means, like, on one hand, the change can be good. You can move into a bigger place. It could be a more comfortable place. It could be something that's more expensive, but it could also kind of, you know, give you a sense of feeling like at ease. And it could be made possible because of another person. So there's something like somebody might say, well, I've got a sublease and I got to get out of it. Do you want to take it over? You know, and you get a deal, or, you know, you have somebody who's willing to kind of move in with you or rent a place with you, or somebody who wants to kind of, collaborate with you in some way that could make that possible, right? Since I got here, I've been thinking about moving back. I would just wait until Venus is no longer squaring Neptune. I would wait until Venus and Mercury start sextiling Saturn. So if you're going to sign something, let's make sure that you can do it closer to the second half of January, because truth be told, if you were going to move, you could have, should have, would have already done it 2 months ago. So I don't recommend doing it now. Wait until you get to the end of January. Then you can make a better decision about your living situation. Saturn is also going to come out of a square with Jupiter and Uranus, and I think it's going to be easier to swing. Sometimes we have a retrograde in the fourth house, and we realize after going back to a place, like, I really miss this. This is where I'd like to be, right? Or this is what I really enjoy. For a lot of Libra risings, I have found that they're all moving into places that feel more like home. I think that's what the retrograde has been about, and places that also give you improved sleep. I moved during this retrograde period, moved into a bigger place, and just got into a place that just feels a lot more comfortable, and happened to do it pre-retrograde, still unpacking, but you get what I'm saying. So change can actually be good with this retrograde for you, you know, in your fourth house. Equally, you have a full moon coming, conjunct your sun, and that's going to be in a couple days. So be mindful that when that full moon comes up, it's going to be right on your Mars, and that's going to be about big changes revolving around home and career, and it's bringing up themes revolving around relationships and how it may forward where you're going with some of your relationships as well. So that can be very positive. You just want to watch down the road when, like, the Sun and Mercury and Mars, they're all going to start squaring Pluto and Saturn. So it's trying to get you to get serious about kind of getting grounded. So I feel like the actual move may happen end of January, you know, going into February. That's when you could definitely make the jump. Come back. Let us know what happens. I'd love to hear more. All right, so we've got, am I saying this correctly? Is it Dwan? What's up? David's in the house. 13th Spirit, what's up? Okay, Ronald. All right, so let's take Dwan's question. If I can get PayPal to come correct, please. Oh, does anybody else use PayPal? Have you seen the new format? It's horrible. So annoying. So annoying. Dwan is December 14th, 1988 in Detroit, 7:16 a.m. Feeling stuck in my head. I've recently gotten a big raise at my job and now I have an opportunity to have a stable income, currently living with my folks, looking to have my own home soon. What should be mindful of during this retrograde season? Well, congrats on the raise. Well done. That's awesome. Well, I mean, you know, this is like a major season of change for Sagittarians, and that's really been brewing since the summertime when you had a retrograde in your career and your business sector in Virgo, which was bringing up the potential promotions, changes at work. And so now you find yourself in the midst of a Mercury retrograde in Sag where you're like, okay, well, now what do I do? You know, Mars is also in your sign and Mercury is going to retrograde and come into conjunction with that. So I feel like it's about you kind of going, okay, how are my relationships with other people, right? It's not just about home and career, although the mutable squares that you're experiencing from your first to your fourth are going to be like, well, where am I moving to? And then also the oppositions to the seventh can be, well, what relationships will come of this, or how will this affect my relationships with family? The big thing for me is the fact that you're going through eclipses in the 10th house and you're, you know, maintaining employment. That's amazing. Saturn's on your moon. So finally you're starting to kind of get more money coming in. And so it's going to make it possible for you to have your own space. I would say getting into your own living space situation, you know, maybe you're going to see more of that developing in the spring. When planets are coming into your whole sign fourth house and you're starting to see, you know, stuff developing really from about February through the better part of like April. You'll have eclipses in a retrograde that makes me feel like you could be moving right around that time. I think with Saturn on your moon as a Sag rising, you know, it was about being at home, being with family, working through family related things, talking to women in the family, sisters, mothers, aunties, grandmas, all of these people where Saturn really wants you to kind of be closer to home. And also people who have probably said to you, stay here, save your money, right? Because Saturn rules your second house. So that's cool. I'm more looking at the Mercury retrograde through this Capricorn stellium. So like, yeah, you're a Sag, but you have a very strong Saturn signature. So you're a little bit more so grounded maybe than most Sag risings. That retrograde is now getting you to think about, once again, your relationships with other people, right? How to better connect and communicate with other people. This is such a personal retrograde for you. You know, the retrograde shadow started at 22 and it ended at 8. So it's literally hitting every single freaking planet by degree in your first house. So if work is going well and if you're making money and you're really capable of doing whatever you want, I think that this Mercury retrograde that's in a square to planets in the fourth house is about finally coming to terms with the fact that life may actually be unfolding and looking really positive. Like the future looks bright. And maybe you're having to kind of look at things and go like, this is weird. Like for the first time in like a while, I don't feel like I have a crisis. So like, what am I supposed to be like wigging out about? Or what am I supposed to be worrying about? And a lot of this can actually be about undoing and like letting go of this need to feel like you have to constantly be in action or that you're constantly fighting to kind of survive or make something possible. Now you're learning how to kind of rework some of your communication, you know, style, or rework something about how you connect and you communicate with relationships, and being more open to now developing home and developing partnerships as you go into this next year. If you heard some of my other readings this evening, you heard me talk about how Jupiter was going to go into Gemini in 2024 in the summer. And that's really expanding relationships for you because Jupiter rules your chart. So this can be about how you're connecting, communicating, traveling with people. It's also going to square Saturn in your fourth house. So on one hand, you're going to have to treat 2024 and 2025 almost like a four-way stop. Saturn and Neptune are still going to be squaring your sun. So there's going to be a sense of you needing to be grounded, being at home, closer to family sometimes, maybe still staying home for a little bit until, spring, summer. And then Jupiter is going to say, well, let's go out, let's go and do things. So a relationship story might happen next year that's going to get you thinking about, well, do I have to live by myself? Could I live with another person? Could a relationship really expand my world and make all of these things possible? So I think right now this retrograde is about being present with that and asking yourself, like, what do I want? What are my goals? Where am I going? And how can I better communicate and kind of express myself? I was born in 89. I have 4 planets in Capricorn, 5 if you include Vesta, and this retrograde has been a fucking nightmare. But I kind of knew it was coming to some extent, and I see some of the positive stuff that's coming from it. And I think a lot of it has been the trines to Jupiter. And Jupiter is your chart ruler. So technically it's in your 5th house. So it's a lot of like, how can I have more fun, right? What am I spending my money on? Am I investing it in something? Do I start new hobbies? Do I want to take somebody out on a date? How's my love life? Like now all of a sudden you're like, okay, I've got some money to work with. What am I doing with it? 5th house can be gambling, but it can also be investing. And I would say in this next year with Saturn on your North Node, it's going to be about how you're learning how to communicate more with people and how to have fun. So you're kind of opening yourself up to being a little bit more optimistic, maybe a little bit more spontaneous. And I definitely could see the storyline revolving around changes on the home front and feeling a little bit more so grounded with that closer to, April of 2024, With that Mercury retrograde, just be mindful of feedback. Other people are going to give you feedback. A lot of people are going to be asking you like, what's wrong? What's going on? Are you okay? Where are you behaving this way? Where are you communicating like that? And you might kind of feel tongue-tied. And you're going to see Mercury and Mars come into a conjunction around the 27th, square Neptune. Just like mind your P's and Q's, especially when it comes to how you're communicating with relatives. Be really mindful when you're driving because this is squaring stuff in your 3rd house. So this is like not a time to be distracted while you're driving. And just be mindful that like words and actions have consequences. There can be a sense of you coming on very strong, and some people may kind of be like, whoa, like what's wrong? Why are you communicating or talking to me that way? Especially siblings. Siblings are women in the family. So there could be a little bit of like a tiff going on there. And then that North Node coming into conjunction with Mars and eclipses in Aries in the spring is going to be you being like, man, I just want my own place. I'm ready to go. And so you'll start the process, I think, of initiating that just after the eclipses in April. Hopefully that's helpful for you, giving you some insight. I believe that's it. I don't think I missed anybody. Okay, cool. That's everybody. So with that being said, thank you guys for spending Friday night with me. Just a quick thing, just before I let you guys go, we are going to have Astro Weather on Sunday, so I filmed the video for that today. We're going to have horoscopes coming out on Tuesday, so if you guys have been waiting for that, it'll be out soon. I'm doing a live show on New Year's Day, so you guys can catch me here in the kind of the late morning, depending on what time zone you're in. I'm going to be doing a several-hour presentation in all of the astrology of 2024. If you guys want to join me for that private viewing, you can pick up tickets on my website at beyondtheveiledtarot.com. Click the links in the description below. It's $11.11 as like a donation to be a part of the live show. If you want to hear about what the new year has in store and what my thoughts are on 2024, come check it out. I hope you join me and ring in the new year with me. If you guys want to book a personalized reading with me too, check out my readings while you're there. My availability starts in February and March of 2024. I also teach tarot and astrology, so if you want to learn with me, I've got tons of courses, astrology calendars, personal calendars, prints, candles, and much, much more. So check all of that out while you're there. And please sign up for my newsletter so that way you're alerted as to when I have new webinars and courses coming out in 2024. We will be back here Friday. We're here every Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll be doing tarot, and it'll be the last live of 2023. Enjoy the rest of your guys' weekend. I'll see all of you very soon. Take care.